Willkommen in einem Video. Welcome to another exciting video, in this case episode 17 of my Star Trek The Original Series episode breakdown video series. In this video, I'll be looking at Season 4, or actually Season 1 of the animated series, but I call it Season 4, episodes 94 to 97 of Star Trek, to identify historical references which can be used to determine the original history of the Star Trek universe. The episode order I'm using is the production order, and I'm following on from the original series, assuming that the two seasons of the animated series represent seasons 4 and 5 of the original series. In order to understand the development of the history or vision of Star Trek, we need to study the episodes in the order they were written. While I'm uncertain of the exact writing order, the production order is about as close as I can confirm. The episode order information as broadcast is also included. Special thanks to the transcripts which can be found on the Geschichte site. When Gene Roddenberry created Star Trek back in 1966, he had a vision which remained basically consistent. When The Next Generation was released in 1987, Gene's vision had changed, and the past needed to change in order to be consistent with his new vision. This video series will look at the original vision of Star Trek, starting with the earlier source material. Any historical facts from later sources which contradict the earlier references we'll assume to be in error for the purpose of this video. Minor changes in nomenclature can be excused. The Jihad is the 16th episode of Season 4, which is the first season of the animation series. By convention, it was considered the 94th episode produced. Its star date is 5683.1 and its original air date was 12th of January 1973. In this episode, we're introduced to the Vedala asteroid and the Vedala race, who is the oldest spacefaring race in the Federation, or at least the Federation was aware of. They must predate the Vulcans, if this is correct. In the animated series, they do look a lot like their kins. Perhaps they are related. In all seriousness, the animators likely could not be bothered to create a new character and reuse the kins. It's unlikely this is what they actually looked like, or they should look significantly more different. The Vedalan race is supposedly the oldest spacefaring race the Federation is aware of. Again, they must predate the Vulcans. We know what was to become the Romulans left Vulcan at the earliest 300 AD, so they would have been around flying in space well before that. I'm assuming this race became spacefaring clearly in 300 AD, if not earlier as a result. A quick note, I have to assume lost or extinct races do not count. They need to be a race in the Federation of known by the Federation and in contact with the Federation. They also need to possess interstellar space capability, not interplanetary. I would suspect while this race could be the oldest known spacefaring race in contact with the Federation, their overall power cannot be very great. They likely became pacifists and attempted to pacify a few planets around them, including the Score, but they were not that powerful compared with, let's say, the Federation. We are now also introduced to T'Char, who comes from the planet Score and who is part of the Score race. We discover in the episode the Score were a military race which could breed armies rapidly, and I suspect were a real nuisance to everyone around them. In 2067 AD, they became a peaceful race because of Aldar, who is from Vendala. In 2 standard years, apparently, the existing Score could breed an army of 200 billion warriors, although how these warriors were going to get anywhere beyond their planet is the real mystery here. Key takeaways from this episode is we discover the oldest currently known spacefaring race, which I have to assume are not extinct and have some contact with the Federation. This is the Vedala, which must have had space travel at least in 300 AD, if not earlier. We're also introduced to the Score, who became peaceful back in 2067. There are 2 other races mentioned, but we neither know their planets nor have much detail about them, apart from the fact one of them has the hots for Kirk. For a series designed for children, there are a lot of adult concepts in this episode. The woman with the hots for Kirk often wanted to have fun with Kirk or experience pleasure with Kirk. I wonder what a 7-year-old would think of this, probably imagining sharing an ice cream. I can feel Gene's influence as work here. The Terratin Incident is the 11th episode of Season 4, which was the first season of the animated series. By convention, it was considered the 95th episode produced. Its star date is 5577.3 and its original air date was 17th of November 1973. In this episode, Starbase 23 is mentioned. This is for the first time, so we discover a new starbase. The Enterprise comes across another planet in this episode from the Cepheus system. The planet has a miniature city on it and miniature people called the Terratin. The Terratin are a lost Earth colony and the planet is called Terra 10. I wonder if there's any significance in Terra 10. Could this be the 10th colony attempt that the Terra or Earth sent out? The Enterprise takes the Terratines to a new planet called Verdanus, which is 10 days away from the Cepheus system. In this episode, we encounter a new planet, Terra 10, which was a lost Earth colony and about to be destroyed. In addition, another planet, assumed uninhabited at that time, called Verdanus, is also mentioned. I suppose the Terratines are now a Federation citizens once they move to this new planet, although they're rather small citizens. The Eye of the Beholder is the 15th episode of Season 4. It was the 96th episode produced. Its star date is 5501.2 and its original air date was 5th of January 1974. In the episode, we get another planet, in this case, Lactra 7. This planet has a very advanced civilization on it, and it's certainly alien and certainly not part of the Federation. The planet seems like a zoo planet, perhaps, so maybe there's more than one planet in this alien confederation or whatever the hell it is. We discover that a survey ship called the Ariel went to Lactra 7 in order to investigate the system. In the episode, Kirk mentions another planet, Canopus 3, which has deserts and dinosaur-like animals on it. It was likely not inhabited. Kirk also mentions another planet, Marvel. In this case, it had flying creatures on it called dragons. It was also likely not inhabited, or if it was inhabited, it wasn't inhabited by humans. The main takeaway from this episode is the existence of a very advanced race of telepathic aliens on Lactra 7. There is little common ground between them and the humans, and the aliens do not seem to have any need to expand. So it's a one-off contact and they don't, or they're probably not going to be a threat to the Federation. Kirk mentions a number of other likely uninhabited planets in this episode as well. It's interesting that this race is so advanced and it's probably only on one planet or only a couple of planets. It seems that maybe when races become incredibly advanced, they all retreat back to a single planet before they transcend into some sort of non-corporeal form. Anyway, I discuss that in my series later in this in this video series. Once Upon a Planet is the 9th episode of Season 4. It was the 97th episode produced. Its star date is 5591.2 and its original air date was 3rd of November 1973. In this episode, the shore-leave planet in the Omicron Delta region is mentioned. It was a recreational planet created by an advanced civilization which has disappeared. In this case, the planet has a major issue and is very dangerous. A computer is now running the planet because the keeper is dead. In the episode, we discover a obelisk with some inscriptions. Based on the inscriptions, the planet's been around for at least 7,009 of its own years. If they're similar to Earth years, then that's 7,009 years. Depending on the size of the Sun, this could be longer or shorter than an Earth year. I'm guessing it may be a bit longer, as 7,009 Earth years seems rather short if it was created by a long-lost advanced civilization, but who knows. The key takeaways from this episode is that the keeper of the shore-leave planet has died. The Enterprise last visited the planet in the episode called Shore Leave, which is Season 1, Episode 15, or the 17th episode that was produced. This would have been at least 2 to 3 years prior, so the keeper must have died sometime during that period. Many of the latter Star Trek movies and shows do not align with the original vision of the series. This is common in real history, as later historians attempt to change the past in order to justify their new beliefs in the present. As I personally enjoyed the original vision of Star Trek, I would hope future movies or TV programs would go back to its original roots, but I doubt that will ever occur. This concludes episode 17 of my Star Trek The Original Series episode breakdown video series, in this case covering season 4, at least what I call season 4, but what is actually season 1 of the animated series. Episodes 94 to 97. Alle guten Ding, kommen zu einem Ende.